Welcome everybody to the webinar with Dr. Jay Allyson. Many of you might know this, but Jay is the host of the Leveraged Business Podcast. It's a podcast I subscribe to and listen to. And, I've been introduced to her and her style of coaching through that. She's also the author of 2 business books on entrepreneurship and business strategy. And she's also a coach and consultant for the entrepreneurial accelerator company, Maracy, which is a wonderful company that only hires the best. And so now we have Dr. Jay Allyson presenting. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to be here. I thought AI was going to be a hot topic and we'd flood the room, but I think there's a lot going on at the moment in the world, and with AI, in fact, there's lots of places to go and find out more about it. And it's also a little bit overwhelming, right? In terms of the pace, in terms of all the different tools. But anyway, I'm thrilled to be with you here. I was expecting to have a room full of therapists. So a lot of what I've done for the presentation is geared towards people who are have their own therapy business. So just bear that in mind. I'll skip over some things. The idea is that all of us are like doing great work. We're changing lives, one session or one program at a time, one book at a time, whatever is your vehicle for getting your gifts and talents to the world. And I also know people are feeling the squeeze. You know, there's a lot to do, limited hours in the day, growing client needs, and now this wave of AI that's got everyone wondering what's next. So that's what we're going to explore today, is a little bit of how to harness AI thoughtfully to extend the impact of what you're doing while maintaining the sort of the deep connection that you have with your clients, which is at the heart of what we do with service providers. And the key aim really is to help more people while maintaining the quality and integrity of your practice. And so you don't want AI to sort of take over completely. And so I'm just going to share my screen and we'll kick off with the presentation bit, but it is sort of interactive. So let me just see where I'm at. I haven't used Google Meet before. This is new for me. I'm usually a Zoom girl. Right. So you seeing my title screen? Everyone got that? Cool. Thank you. Okay. So let's start with a question. So she tried to. Are you facing these challenges? So, burnout, what I call compassion fatigue, where you love what you do, but the endless client work, the hours you're keeping leaves you quite drained. Time scarcity. We all want more time for family, for self-care, for personal development, but your packed schedule is making it feel a little bit impossible, like you're packing a lot into the day. Do you have a financial ceiling, kind of a pressure to how do you grow your business when your income's kind of capped by the number of people that you can support or the number of sessions that you can put into your day? And it can leave you feeling quite stressed. And then the fourth one that I see a lot of is difficulty in scaling is, you've heard about online courses, you've heard about digital products, but the idea of creating one sometimes can feel quite overwhelming. Or maybe you think, oh, it's too late. Everyone's doing that now. So type 1, 2, 3, or 4, or any combination into the chat. Which one's kind of jumps out at you the most out of these 4, or something else? Yeah. Time scarcity. Okay. 24. That's it. You mean as a whole list and that's 24? No, I think you mean 2 and 4. So yeah, got it. So lots of you resonating with many of these. And so my next question is, how urgent is it for you to solve the time scarcity or whichever one you picked? Is it an acute pain? You're really on the edge, you're really feeling it and you desperately need to do something about it? Or is it just a nice to have or perhaps something you're just exploring in terms of looking at how to solve this time constraint or this financial pressure? Like, where are you at? Give me a 1, 2, or 3, or if you're in the wrong place, then feel free to leave. but give me a 1, 2, or 3 if this is something that you're looking to solve. Chronic pain. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. So who out of you have an online product already? Some kind of online way of working with people? If it isn't, I don't mean on Zoom as a one-to-one like coaching session or a consulting work. I mean something that is more leveraged in terms of delivering your expertise. Okay, so Sophie, yeah, yes. So in a sense, you're the audience that you're already doing it, as opposed to the therapy people I was expecting, who probably haven't thought about how to package their expertise. But either way, maybe you want to rinse and repeat. Maybe you want to create another online product. So we'll definitely be looking at how to use AI to speed up the process. Um, Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. That was me trying to find out who's in the room, but I know you all, so it's a little weird. Okay, so leveraging AI for course creation is what we are focusing on today. And here's what I was going to cover. I was going to cover the changing landscape. And so some of that is about um, the therapy type of business. So we'll dive into some of that. But some of it was wanting to talk about AI practice generally, how to enhance AI practice. Um, rather how to enhance your practice using AI. And then we'll really focus on scaling your impact. And another bit that I think is interesting is how do you make it happen for yourself? How do you get the right support in place to do this? Because otherwise that's a time constraint where it's all on you, right? If it's all on you, then it's really feels quite stressful. So some of this may or may not be relevant for you if you're not in the therapy practice. But I wanted to look at very briefly why AI matters for therapists, but equally you could apply it to any professional service provider. So whether you're a coach or a consultant or someone that is very practice based, is very mission driven, and is really looking at wanting to protect the connection that you have when you work with people, right? The human part. So AI sometimes think, well, no, that doesn't feel like me. And I wanted to try and show you how you can look at um, the client expectations of AI, but also the opportunities to grow your practice that doesn't ruin that human connection that we like so much. And the therapist dilemma in this respect is also about having an impact uh, versus time constraints, right? So it's exactly the same as many of you here. And the opportunity, I think, with AI is to help you move beyond one-to-one time limits and leveraging digital strategies, not only for delivery of your client service, but also for marketing and sales. We might not have time to get into a lot of that today. Um, so just very briefly, I wanted to tell you my journey there and back again, so to speak. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but it's basically from humble beginnings in educational technology through to doing some quite high-end digital transformation consulting work for mostly non-profit organizations. But needless to say, I've oh, the slide's not come up. Needless to say, I've been at this a while. um, I'm older than I look, or maybe I look old today, who knows? So, what this has culminated in is not only I've experienced the changing landscape in many, many different industries, but also it's culminated in having to write a second book to my first book because the first book was around, this is animating what I didn't want to do. The first book was very much around how do you create leverage in a consulting business when a lot of that is one to one. Whereas the second book was a lot more about AI because 4 years on, the first one was 2020, 4 years on, I couldn't ignore the fact that, in the digital age, it was very much outdated if I wasn't tackling AI. So I'm very pleased that I published this last month. It did very well. It did better than I thought it was going to do because I didn't do some huge, great launch. It actually did better than my previous book where I did do a big launch. It's a very, very hot topic, I think, for everyone. And what I tried to do in that book was to bring together not just like how amazing the tech is, and a little bit of the history of those people catching up, but to really talk about how to use it with integrity, how to use it in an ethical way as well as a practical way, because there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot that's inherent in what AI brings into the answers that it generates for you. And I wasn't really hearing too many people talking about that. It's not a huge focus of the book. It's very, very practical in terms of implementation. But in a sort of therapy context or in a coaching context or anything in that a service kind of provider area, it's something that I think we care deeply about. And so just so I have that as a bit of a backdrop um, to what we're talking about today, because we can get sort of overrun by how amazing the technology is. Um, so a couple of examples here. First of all, let me just get my notes back up. Okay. I'm working with a less than ideal system because I'm not used to Google Meets, just in full transparency. Um, so one of the things is about client expectations, and everyone's seeing all these different things with AI, and there's a little bit of growing client comfort with digital solutions, and so increasingly they're seeking out digital support options, and there's a rising demand also from the client provider side for accessible support, especially for therapists where people want something outside of sessions. They want something that feels 24/7, like when I need you, I need you. And so there's that kind of basic emotional support that people are increasingly looking for. And so they turn to the internet, they go searching on stuff, and it can be quite dangerous to some extent, but that's just what people are tending to do. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for therapists to offer deeper and more structured solutions than what people are randomly kind of pulling on from the internet, from searches, or from AI, from using tools like ChatGPT. So, I, I mean, first of all, type yes into the chat if you've had a client say something about asking ChatGPT or Claude or one of the others for answers. Just type yes. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and then so it's not like, oh, only a few people have heard of it or are using it. It's prevalent now, and it's become that way quite quickly. So give me, if you a show of hands, if you notice that when you do a search on Google or Bing or wherever, that AI generated responses are at the top of the search results. Yeah. And so then you have a shock thinking, well, how do I get my content? Um, now, first you had sponsored ads, and now you have AI generated content. So one of the big areas I think to look at is around how do you optimize your content for getting found in the search engines now, so that you're getting found by AI. And I've definitely got a couple of clients who have said to me, I'm actually coming up in the AI generated responses. Yeah, my name's getting mentioned for certain keywords. And so that's really where you want to be, because then you're going to have that top search result. And it's a little bit like we talk often about LinkedIn, is that even if you don't use LinkedIn, just having a LinkedIn profile means you're going to be on page one for your own name, at least. And so again, you're trying to seed things so that you get found for particular keywords you want to rank for. And those search results that come up from that are AI generated. And look, these tools can't replace real coaching, real therapy, real support. But your clients are using them. Your potential clients are using them already. So it's important that you at least compete somehow. Um, so meeting modern client needs is really what we're talking about today. Um, and we want to move from a sense of the traditional client provision from one-to-one sessions that are time limited and location based often, although we can do it all over Zoom, towards more modern where people are expecting multi-channel support, 24/7 access and global reach. And so the things that AI can help with enhancing are providing those out of hours support expectations, a bit in the middle here that I've highlighted, the desire for self-paced structured learning and a preference for hybrid care models, right? So that you're able to provide your expertise and your support in multiple ways at multiple times. And so the key message really is rather than competing with AI chat tools, therapists can leverage AI to create these structured, expert guided learning experiences to provide foundational knowledge that makes therapy more effective and more accessible. Reach clients who might not otherwise seek therapy or coaching, or whatever is whatever it is you're providing. Sometimes people aren't ready for one-to-one. They're doing their research. They're thinking, oh, I can figure it out myself, right? So they're using these tools to try and do this. And I did some interesting experiments, in fact, where, you start to sort of treat an AI tool like a therapist and it was quite spectacular and a little scary, I have to say, that you get sucked in thinking, it really knows me. It's like, it gets me. And it really feels like you're talking to like the Samaritans at the end of the phone. It's quite remarkable. And then you have to remind yourself it's not human. This is all generated from the wisdom of therapy practice, counseling or coaching practice that's out there. And it's fast as well. I mean, with AI, if you've used it at all, that the responses come back incredibly fast. It's lightning fast. So I think as a business owner, the other thing to really bear in mind is you'll need to build some authority in what is now an increasingly AI influenced marketplace. So let me just share some of the benefits and impact. I'm not going to dwell on this. I think I've talked around it. But really, it's about touching to that scalability thing. It's a little bit around passive income, if we can ever call it passive, because it's basically build it once and deliver it many times, but you still got to actively market whatever it is that you've built. But it really does help you to look at how you can move from where you are now and meeting client expectations to getting greater client satisfaction, being able to work with more clients, so a wider reach, being able to add income streams by having online approaches to work with you. And ultimately, unless you keep developing your business and growing, which obviously fills the gaps, you should be able to pull back on the one-to-one and end up working less hours. That's always the way of work less, earn more, grow faster is my kind of mantra. And so online courses really offer multiple benefits for both you and your clients. They get accessible support between sessions and you get scalable income streams. And that's hopefully taking you in the right direction for better work-life balance and removing that income cap that's at the top of one-to-one type work. So I'd love to hear, or rather, I'd love you to just spend a few minutes. And I don't know if I can. Oh, yes, it's working already. What's your goal for yourself personally in leveraging AI for course creation? That's the title of the webinar. So hopefully that's why you're here. What's your goal in doing this? So a couple of ways into the question, I'll pop in the chat, or a few kind of sub questions to this. I'll put in the chat. I hope that's shared. Yeah, what's specifically driving your interest here? What are your personal goals with monetizing your expertise? This goes back to some basic business fundamentals, your sort of vision for the business, your objectives. Talk to all about time constraints. What are some of the key time constraints that you're facing? And then moving on, what's the number one thing you find yourself teaching repeatedly? Because that's probably the first thing to look at. What foundational knowledge would help clients the most? You can answer for yourself or you can put it in the chat, whatever is coming up for you. I just really get a sense of, what are the goals here? Why are we doing any of this with AI? How does it support your business objectives? This doesn't seem to be counting down. I'll have to click on it. Gotta love Google Meet. It's the test in multitasking, if ever there was one. Awesome. There's some really great answers in here. You're super clear, not just in broad terms. I mean, there's some of that, but in specific terms about what's the specific thing that you believe AI could help you to do, whether it's speeding things up or organizing thoughts, translating a book into a course. Definitely a good one there because you've already got structure in the book. Yeah. So creating a workbook. So it's very specific things, very specific tasks. And I think it's really important to know what's the business problem that you're solving for in terms of bottlenecks. We talk about that a lot in business coaching, is getting to the bottleneck. There's also a really good reason just to have a play as well with AI, because if you're at the beginning stages, you may have lots of things you think it might do, but until you kind of play with it, and then you see other possibilities, but always come back to the business objectives, so that you're not wasting time, because that's the time pressure, right? That's the time that's pressured. You want to make sure that you're playing intentionally to solve a particular thing that you want to do that's going to have an impact on your business. It's going to have an impact on your clients. And then from a course creation point of view, just getting back to that, um, in the chat, another couple of questions. In ROI terms, return on investment terms, what would an extra 5 to 10K a month mean for your practice? What would be a lifestyle impact of that additional revenue? Travel money. Come back to the UK. Yeah. I mean, you don't have, some of these are deeply personal. You don't have to share them in the chat. Um, but if you're going to take some of your precious time to do some of these developments, it's important that you really connect in with your deeper reasons for doing it, right? And you really visualize like what the outcome that you're looking for your life, for your business, because it is going to take some hard work. It's going to take some commitment to to get there. So I always like to uh, anchor back to the business vision, the business objective, and the impact of achieving that objective. So I'm going to stop the timer if I can and move us on, because we should be able to go faster than that. So now we've got a sense of the what and the why. What about the when? Like, what action are you going to take, apart from being on this webinar, to achieve your goals? And that's what I want you to take. Maybe you don't know the answer quite yet, but that's the question I want you to come away with as we finish up, when we finish up. And then in terms of planning it out, what's your time frame for getting to these goals? And what's standing in the way? And then finally, are you actually going to do it? How committed are you? Okay, so it feels like this is a now. Let's move on to some practicalities. I mean, these are questions, as I said, as much for you. You don't have to put them in the chat. That wasn't the idea. It was more, let's really anchor to why we're doing this and when we're going to take some action. So in terms of practice management, and before we get into sort of leveraging AI for course creation specifically, I wanted to look at how it can support you operationally in your practice, in your business. Um, and I know some of people think, oh, is AI going to take over my role as a business owner? And the answer is no, absolutely not. You've really got to think about AI as your practice manager, your personal assistant, handling those time consuming tasks that pull you away from what you do best, as well as sort of helping, which is obviously helping your clients. And here's where it gets really interesting and practical because, for example, all those intake forms, when you onboard a client, you've got lots of intake forms, or if you're coaching, you've got lots of session notes, and they really pile up and you're sort of figuring out what to do with them. Well, AI can help you streamline all of that. As I said, imagine if you could get all of that filled out and analyzed before the next session and give you insights right from the start. Or during sessions, if the notes could practically write themselves, which obviously you've got tools like Fathom, like Otter, that do the transcriptions. I think James has got one set up for this webinar as well. But ChatGPT and other generative AI tools can really sort of take some of the heavy weight out of that. These are real possibilities now for having very rapid analysis and synthesis of notes. So let me share a couple of examples and then we'll move on. So one of the things that I see the biggest impact from is smart intake processing. So digital forms, AI analysis, the ability to pull out key insights from, a meeting or from a set of research documents, and as well as providing like care planning. So actually providing care, creating care plans based on an assessment of the patient or the client based on your coach notes and your practice notes. And so with all of these tools, each step is, automated, it's secure, it's integrated with your practice management system. And what used to take hours can now take literally just minutes and probably seconds. So that's really exciting. And here is an example of for therapists, personalized care plans, for example, where you have the ability to pull out data-driven insights. You've got customized treatment, you've got real-time adaptation, and being able to do all of that on the fly, as opposed to sitting down for hours and trying sort of pouring all over it. And they work together to enhance your clinical judgment. They're not there to replace it. Um, you never want to use AI if you don't know, if it's not something that you could yourself do, but would just take you a lot longer. Because you really want to be able to evaluate the result that it's generating. You really want to be able to see whether it's talking nonsense. It's getting better and better. There's less nonsense. That also means it looks better and better, right? The answers it gives, they look amazing. You just think, wow, this is great. I'll just like take this. And then you start trusting it. And then sometimes you don't review. And so I really do think until you've like created your own set of training materials, if you like, that your AI tool is drawing on, that's based on your expertise. I'll talk about that in a moment. Creating your own custom GPT, as they call it. Until you've got to that point, you really want to make sure you're reviewing very, very carefully. So here's another couple of ways to scale your impact is to go from individual sessions to comprehensive care system, as I mentioned earlier, that sort of hybrid model where your client feels supported. And that means you can pull back on some of the individual sessions because you're taking the heavy weight out of some of the work that you're doing manually and one-to-one with each client. You're allowing them to work a little bit more independently as well. Um, the way that you're moving forward with an online course creation solution is to take your expertise and package it in some way, and to provide as well AI enhanced elements of that in education. Now you can create amazing chat bot type of customer support or student support, so that they, in between their sessions with you or the structured teaching, they can get some support from other sources, and they can brainstorm a little bit. Um, and then you can turn obviously into online courses. And that's where you can start to have this global impact, because it's not dependent on you being present, because you've packaged it all. You've got other things working to support the core content that you've created. And your students have a much more personalized experience. So the key message with the course creation opportunity is that, rather than competing with AI chat tools, therapists and coaches and consultants can leverage AI to create these structured, expert guided learning resource experiences to provide that foundational knowledge. That means you haven't got to go through some of those basic things, to do a lot of diagnostic stuff as well. And particularly, as I said earlier, to reach clients who might not otherwise seek therapy or seek one-to-one coaching. And it's really important, I think, that you're seen to be like adding these things to your toolbox and you're building your practice, because there is that client expectation now, as well as obviously the idea is to create more income for you. Um, so these are a few things that I just threw together really to show you the different ways that the hybrid model could come together. So on the right side, you've got like your expert curriculum. So you create your course, it's in those modules, it's up on a learning management platform, particularly potentially, or even just in Google folders when you start. But the ability of AI is to provide that kind of in between support for students. So they can have these chats. And sometimes people have created their own chat bot. They call it a bot, where you're providing the answers, you're providing it. But now I think you can. There's actually just a lot of training inside the tools, so that they do come out with fairly useful answers. And you'd have to check that for yourself to make sure that it was, aligned with how you like to think about these areas. So here's another one, just another example of, in this one, it's building stronger relationships. So they would learn the foundational stuff in the course, the online course on the right hand side. They've also got this way to interrogate the content by using an AI chat support tool. Um, here's another one. another one. You can get the idea that it's kind of a rhythm that the students can get into, where they're being able to go between fixed content that you've like crafted and put into a structured learning system and the in between stuff. So this is really where the hybrid gives you the best of both worlds. You've got the AI chat side and you've got the structured course side. And when you look at it from an instructional design point of view, it really is the best of both worlds, because that's something what's missing when people go through a self-study type of course, or the need for us to run live sessions is to bring dialogue back into the course design. Because dialogue is where the higher cognitive kind of understanding areas of learning kick in. And now, again, you can take some of the weight out of you having to do that with the AI chat support. Okay, so let's move on. So the fast track path to implementation is what we all want, right? And you might think, this sounds great in theory, but how do I actually do it? How do I get clear on my strategy? And that comes back to some of those, grounding, anchoring questions we asked earlier. And how do I decide on my courses? How do I put the thing together? How do I market it? And how do I make money from it? And that's really where I think James's expertise comes in. He's helped a lot of therapists like you to create impactful courses and the marketing to go with them. And without things getting overwhelming, the key is taking it step by step. Start with what you already know works and build an expert system and a structured path through that. And it's really important that you do have the right guidance along the way, because the AI, can might help you, but you've still got to be programming it. You've still got to be prompting with the right things. And use create a custom GPT can help you to make sure that it's very much based on your approaches, your models. But it means that you can launch with confidence if you've got that support around you. You don't have to figure it all out on your own, essentially. That's really what James is helping people with. He provides that structured approach to take you through each stage of creating courses that truly help people and expand your ability to work with more clients at the same time. So here's a few examples. Maybe these are things that you could figure out for yourself. Is like, what would be some pre-therapy foundational topics or some pre-coaching foundational topics? This is really great when you're building a cohort for a course, because it means that if you've got people who you've enrolled like 2 months before it starts, you can give them some keep warm type of online material for when the actual course starts. And very much looking at courses that help with common client challenges. Those are really, really popular to start with. And breakthrough techniques, you'll know from your own practice, what are the key areas that people get really stuck on, that they really need to work with a coach, work with a therapist to get through, to break them through. And what are the sort of techniques that you can model through an online course that would help someone to do some of that, either before they work with you or while they're running a course, participating in a course with you. Or maybe there's something else that jumps out at you. So I would just take a moment to reflect on what those core topic possibilities might be for you. And then pick one and then use ChatGPT to create a series of prompts for course creation. And so what I was going to do is a bit of a live demo, but I've actually got some screenshots as well. But essentially, you'll get these slides when the recording goes out. But if you go to the site, the URL that's on there, what you really want to be doing to keep everything contained and keep your material private and inside so that it's growing and knowing you as you're using it, is to create your own custom GPT. So that links for that there. And there's a screenshot on there of like, well, how to do that. That link will take you to an instruction on how to do that. And then once you've set that up, you're configuring it with the the name you want to give it, a short description, and then you're giving it some instructions. But this is the important bit: is you can add your own materials as the knowledge base. So upload your files. And what you're doing when you're building out your custom GPT is you're programming in its general behavior and role, right? You're very much in control of this assistant that you're creating, that you can mold it and shape it to, how you need it to behave. Just like if you did actually hire an assistant, or you had another coach or therapist working with you who you were training on your method and your approaches, just how you would do their sort of induction and onboarding and training. That's what you're doing here with your custom GPT. And then you've got to decide what you're going to ask this tool, this AI tool, this generative AI tool to do. So, like, one of the things for course creation is ask ChatGPT, should I ask you to do? Like, give it the prompt of like, write me a prompt to ideate my course and to build it out. And then you can take it all the way through to helping you to market and sell the course. So these are some of the approaches of how to use ChatGPT in that step-by-step approach. So you'll get these are going to be handouts that James will send you as PDFs later. I'm not going to go through it all through step by step. But it's the fact that you can create something that gives you this detailed plan that allows you then to block time to do these various tasks. And like I said before, it's very much a case of, yes, it's front loaded. You have to spend time developing this. But once you've designed it and developed it, it's there. It's a legacy. It's a sellable product, and it's going to make money for you over and over. So this is the second page of that, where we start to go into looking at the right platform for your course, selecting the right marketing and launch strategy, and then some sort of post-launch optimization. So it's all there, it can be all laid out for you. And the problem, of course, going back to what James helps people with, is it's really hard doing it on your own, because there'll be questions that come up. There'll be places you get stuck. But you're programming all of this in can really, at least get you going in the right direction. So I was going to do a demo, but I'm not. It's something to go and have a play around with. So get yourself set up with an account with, say, ChatGPT, which is really the front runner, and ask it to guide you step by step to generating a structured list of prompt questions. So here's an example prompt that you can use, and it will walk you through the entire course creation process. It's logical, it's easy to follow, and you get this plan. As I said, the problem is like, what happens next? So here's the sort of step by step to kick things off. A few high impact tasks to help you can ask your GPT to do when first developing a course. So you can ask it to validate your course idea. It's a really important thing. So I'm just going to give you some examples from here. Help me brainstorm and validate my course idea. What are some ways I can test demand for my course topic? So you can really design this from scratch using some brainstorming with ChatGPT. Then you can start to create a course outline, thinking about the teaching format, develop lesson content, plan the course launch, and then, make sure that you're building some of that interaction in I talked about earlier in terms of course design, to improve student engagement and retention. So they actually work all the way through the program and you don't lose people along the way. So essentially, it's like these three steps. You've got the whole curriculum design and development at the outset, and that's where you're going to scratch your head a little bit. And it's great to use ChatGPT to brainstorm some of those ideas. And then if you're working with a course creation coach like James, it's great because you can kind of just like have these check back points all the time. And then sort of those course delivery and support, again, as you start to run this, you're going to learn lots, you're going to refine it. You can put all of that learning and feedback back into your chat GPT and you can ask it, well, what should I do to optimize? So at every step of the way, and then as I said, you can start to create a funnel for your course because it knows all about your course. It's helped you create it. All of that brain trust is inside your chat GPT, your custom GPT. And so when you say, I want to create a lead magnet for people who would be a great fit for my course, what would be a good like slither of what I teach? What would, now write me the email sequence. I mean, there's some very more detailed prompts, of course, but you can say, write me a prompt to help me figure this out. And it will give you more detailed prompts. But yeah, it's the whole sequence of what we do ourselves. We create a lead magnet based on the beginning of the customer journey that fits to your course that you want to sell at the end of it. Then you ask it to create the email sequence to nurture and build the relationship, to create the sales page, the social media content, and all the follow-up systems. So it just takes a lot out of not only the planning of it, but the doing of it as well. And it's, as I said, lightning fast. And so if you think about the time frame that we talked about earlier, there's nothing to stop you if you have some focused time blocked out for this to be, taking your idea from, to be going from an idea to launching it in about 8 weeks. Right now, for most people, it will probably take longer than that because we're doing it around the edges of a busy day. But it's possible because of the speed that you can work through these things where normally you kind of get stuck, you park it a bit, you're trying to figure stuff out, you have tech problems. So again, working with someone to like keep you accelerated through this whole process means you can end up with something within months, not a years. So here's a little checklist. I'm not going to go through it because it's pretty much says what I've just talked you through, but you've got that on the slide for later. And then what you want to do, going back to our question around the return on investment, is thinking about figuring out the numbers. Say you had to invest, say you had, $10,000 to invest to get this all up and running. And then you were successful within 2 or 3 months, 4 months, 6 months even, and you had 20 people pay you $500 to enroll in your program, or maybe it's a bundle of courses that add up to that amount. Then, what would that mean for you? What would, that would be the break even point, right? Right. So you're not making any money from it, but you've built an asset. You've built a commercial product. Everything from there, everybody you enroll after that is going to be revenue, going to be profit. It's going to be a return on investment for you. And so I just wanted to finish off really by looking at, the reason why you went into therapy practice or coaching, or it's to serve people, right? You want to help people and you want to help as many people as possible. And often that's hard because it's just one of us. So I think what we're doing is not replacing the core mission, it's amplifying it. And you think about the impact you could have while working more efficiently. And as I said, you don't have to do this alone. So this is just a slide really that talks through what James does. I don't know if you want to talk through it, James. But it's basically giving you a co-pilot, I like to call it, as you work through some of these steps to create a course, an online course, and to market and sell it, but also to get unstuck along the way because there will be stuff that comes up.
Yeah, just a brief thanks, Jay. Thanks for bringing this out. One of my main things is I want to help people who have a passion to help other people fulfill their mission and not just do it as a not just do it in noble poverty, but actually earn an income from what you do. You have valuable advice. You have a mission for people that you want to help. And I don't want that dream to die because you don't know how to do it, or you don't know how to get started, or you get frustrated with the technology, or you need some emotional support as you go through the hard times and it's not working and you just feel like giving up. I don't want you to give up. I want your dream to live. So, if you have a mission that you want to get started, you want to figure out how to fund it with your expert knowledge, set up a call with me at that course creation. It's courses.coursecreationstudio.com/good fit. Learn what it's like to work with me and just set up a meeting and let's chat about what your dream is.
Awesome. So yeah, that's me done. I really wanted to uh, thank James for the invitation to present. We talked about doing something for a while, so it's good to do this topic. But it's a huge topic, and I hope I've given you a bit of a walkthrough, if nothing else, to help you see that it is possible to accelerate the vision, to accelerate getting to your business objectives, and creating a little bit more time freedom and more impact and more revenue.
So now's the time for questions, right? It's Warren, and I actually have 2 questions. If anybody else has questions, I didn't see any other questions in the chat. One is if I can't do everything, where do I start? Because you presented a lot here, and you presented a lot of like things you could do, and like chatbots and intake forms, and I don't know, like courses, like there's a lot, GPTs. Like if I can't do everything, but I want to get started, where do you think is the easiest place to get started with using AI to accelerate your coaching or consulting or therapy practice?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And that's why at the beginning I said, what is it we're solving for in the sense of
Mm,
its objectives? What is it that you want? What's the constraints that you've currently got? Those are the starting points. There isn't one answer to your question. But it's a lot of it is around what's the stage of awareness you have with AI, and then the first step would be to play. If you're at a low level of awareness of the possibilities, then just go in and play, just
mm,
go in and see its capabilities. I talk about this in my book in terms of places to get started, because otherwise you end up with a project that you're kind of working blinkered. You don't really understand what it's capable of, and you're probably going to go a little bit wrong. So that first step would be to play, to really see it in action for yourself, and just start testing things out. So then, if you're in more of an awareness, and hopefully I've given you a ton of ideas in terms of things you could do, is then what's going to take the weight out of some of the things that it's heavy for me time wise or skill wise to do. So
mm.
I talked about summarizing, like, we create masses of notes from our sessions, from our coach sessions, right? And sometimes it's, we want to play those back to our patients, to our clients from time to time when we have moments of reflection. So you can take all of that and you can like do a little summary and have that as a recap. So that would be a very simple thing to do rather than having to pour over it for your next session. Um,
Mm.
where and in fact you can do that probably from the meeting notes, but that's meeting by session. What you want is to do that whole progression thing of like over the last 3 months,
Mm.
where did we start and where have we ended up, and what are the accomplishments, what are still the ongoing challenges that we need to focus on, right? So it's a great way of what I call synthesizing and then getting those key highlights from the work you're doing. So that's a really big one in my estimation because it's taking it from your notes, right? It's taking it even from meeting transcripts. You can just load the whole thing up.
Yeah, I can analyze vast amounts of data and find patterns
Yeah.
quicker than reading an hour's worth of notes.
Yeah. And you're not looking for general patterns. You're
Yeah.
looking patterns for a particular client or a
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
on a particular period of time. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a really key one. But yeah, I mean, you get all of those. There's stuff you can do for your own business as well, and looking at all of the clients or patients that you've got coming in. Um, are you starting to specialize? Are they coming in with the same things? Is your marketing working? Is there a alignment between something you put out as a post and the clients you're getting? There's all sorts of analytics you can do. And one of the things I think a lot of us as business owners don't do enough of, and I'd even put myself in that category. There's so much you could do. Is the customer journey data analytics for marketing? We're just not tapping into the data because we don't quite know what to do with it. Well, a lot of my clients don't quite know what to do with it. So that's a really big area where AI can help. It is to sort of, as you said, start showing those trends and start helping you see what's working in the marketplace.
I have like we're at time. I have one more question. Any other questions from the group? Oh, Warren, let me unmute you.
Warner, hi.
Warner. Yeah, sorry. How do I unmute you? Oh, you have to unmute yourself. I can't. There
Hello,
you go.
everyone. This was excellent. Thanks to both of you. How training your own chat GPT bot? I'm intrigued by that. How
Uh-huh.
challenging is that going to be? What realistic expectations? As I trying to take that along with everything else
Great
we've
question.
talked
That was
about
going to be
today.
my question too.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I've actually, because it's a popular question, it really is. And I'm just trying to find a link for you. I've actually got a little free thing, which is about how to create a custom GPT builder. Um,
Oh, great.
so I hope that link works. I've been putting out so many free things. And so that will take you through some of the thinking of how to build. It's basically building your own AI agent. Um, the thing is about the limits of the account that you have sometimes with how many files you can upload. So that's one bit, but it's also always learning. It's not just about the file uploads. It's also learning from all of the prompts that you're giving it. So everything that comes into the space becomes it's a sort of cascade knowledge building that's happening around everything that it's handling for you. Just like if you had an assistant or you had a partner, and you've trained them, then over time, you want to retain them because they've got a lot of knowledge that they've built in around what you do and how you do it. So that's the real benefit of it. The how to do it is in that what was I going to say? Guide, that free guide.
I've actually seen other people send me links to check in with their GPTs, and it didn't quite click with me. Like they're sending me their own chatbot, like Descript, the program I use for audio engineering and stuff. They sent me a chat GPT uh, uh, for Descript. It's its own little self-contained Descript chatbot that has its all the PDFs and whatever
Mhm.
loaded in the background,
Yep.
and then I can ask it questions on how to do things in between. Like it answers a lot of great questions, and it's a lot of businesses, not just therapists, but other businesses could do that. I could make one for course creation,
Yep.
and send it out with my little logo. It has their logo on it, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
right on the top of my screen.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
anyways,
high value. It's real high
yeah,
value as well. But it's
yeah.
another way of having people interact with your expertise. In fact, one of the fun tools is something called Delphi.ai. And I don't know if or you've heard of it, but Brendan Bouchard shared something the other day, which was quite shocking. Like he's basically cloned himself. He's created
Mhm.
a whole customer experience of them being able to interrogate him,
Yep. Yeah.
but it's actually his bot.
Jay, I
It's,
wonder if you loaded up all your podcast recordings and
yeah,
made it a Jay Allison, a Jay
yeah,
Allison chatbot. Like,
Absolutely. An iSuccess chatbot. No, I
I
mean,
think I would
it's
subscribe to
staggering.
that.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
Well, we
it's all
probably,
about brand positioning as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, we should probably wrap up. Where, uh, so people will get the slides, they'll get the recording, they'll get some of the handouts. I'll include the link you just shared in the wrap up email about creating your own chat, your own GPT. That's a very useful tool. Anything you want to say to wrap up, Jay?
No, I think I've said everything I wanted to say.
Okay, great. This has been wonderful. Thanks to the audience and thanks for the people who are going to be watching this later. If you have questions, check out the links. And it's now time to go put your mission in motion. And
I love that.
yeah,
Thanks, James.
thanks.